One of our events happens in October and it's Halloween. So we hope you guys get a chance to come by and visit us at Confluence Park. Again, because of recording, my name's Sue Kuentz and I am the president of the San Antonio Storytellers. And I welcome each and every one of you here. Whether you're a teller or a listener, we definitely need both. And stories are so needed right now, more than any time I can think of, even though I think a good story does a heart good any second of the day or night. And that's what we're all about. Everyone's welcome here all the time, free of charge. Please join us once a month, the very first Wednesday of every month. And since it's June, let's just go ahead and get started. I have just one tip that I'd like to share with you as a storyteller. I've taught kids forever in my storytelling club, but also adults. And what's pretty cool about storytelling is that you can gather stories from anywhere and anyone. You can hear stories on Zoom all the time. You can go around the world and just stay right in your house and visit stories from Ireland, stories from Asia, stories from Texas. But then there's the world's coming alive again. There's so many wonderful storytelling concerts and workshops you can attend and festivals. But if you want to be able to remember a story that you wrote or a story that somebody jarred from your memory, and it's so good, you don't want anyone to forget it. Well, one way to remember it yourself is to put it down so that all you need to do is pick up an index card and look at the bare bones of your story. And the way I teach this to adults and educators and to kids is very simple. We just take an index card and you number that index card 1 through 5. Some of you who would rather have more pieces to a story, you're welcome to number it 1 to 10 if you want to. But truly, all of my stories, I number 1 to 5. And in a minute, I want you to remember that number 1 is going to be the most important piece of your story, and number 5. So number 1 and number 5 are the 2 most important pieces of a bare bone story. Now, before I show you what I'm talking about, let me start with a joke. What did the French chef say when he made a huge mistake?
El malheur.
Merde.
Oh no.
Not merde.
I forgot. I can't remember.
Oh, geez.
What's the punchline?
Oh.
I didn't forget. What did the French chef say when he made a huge mistake? Oh, crepe.
Crepe.
Get it? Oh, crepe. Okay. How many of us, though, have told a joke, and by the time we get done with the joke, we forgot the punchline? And no matter how cool your brain goes and you try to make up one, it's not going to be half as good as the actual punchline. And you're going to lose those people as your friends for the rest of your life. I know, it's true. So I learned from that. And so let me kind of show you very, very quickly what I'm talking about. Okay. So the bare bones. I just decided to do the dark, dark woods because almost everyone knows the dark, dark woods. You know, someone walks in the dark, dark woods, and in the dark, dark woods, there was a dark, dark house. And in that dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark room. And in that dark, dark room, there was a dark, dark closet. And in that dark, dark closet, there were some dark, dark shelves. And in those dark, dark shelves, there was a dark, dark box. And in that dark, dark box, there was a ghost. All right, that's the story. And that's about as brief as I could get with it. But I want to remember the bare bones of the story. So there's your number 1, your number 2, your number 3, your number 4, your number 5. If you had index cards and you were trying to copy all this down, no worries, because we're recording this on YouTube. You would circle number 1 and circle number 5 so you don't forget how important number 1 and number 5 are. Because remember a joke, you have to know the beginning of your story. All right? It has to be one of those grabbers. It has to grab the audience, the listeners, so that they will continue to listen, right? All right. Skip all the way down then to 5. And that's where you're going to write in as few words or pictures, however you like to represent your story, how your ending is going to be. You can always change it if it doesn't work, but you need that beginning and you need that strong end, because that's the last thing your listeners are going to remember. Okay. And then you fill it in after that. It's almost easy that way. 2, 3, and 4. And that's where you're going to say, well, I need 10. Okay, we'll start with 10, but then get it down to about 5. Okay, because too much is still going to be too much for your brain. If you have 5 total, you'll be able to put them in a chain in your mind, like a charm bracelet, right? And you can see the action taking place. And 2 would actually consist of more than one little event. Okay, but try to keep it down to 5 if you can. Otherwise, it'll be fine. So let me kind of show you. Oops, will it work?
Doing this.
There we go. All right. So there's the bare bones of the dark woods. Okay. So I actually had included in my dark woods that I was double dared, but then I was double dog dared, right? And it happened around Halloween, so I could put the setting in there. And then on number 5, I want to make sure that I scream. So I put the word scream in all caps, all right? And mine's going to be a ghost. What's yours going to be? Is it going to be a skeleton? Is it going to be a spider? Is it going to be just, whatever nasty creature you can think of? Okay. And then fill in 2, 3, and 4 the way you want to remember it. So the D.D is dark, right? I try to cut it as bare bones as possible. Then I can bring that index card with me anywhere and everywhere I want to go. I can take a picture of it on my phone. I've got it on my phone. So if I'm taking off and I'm telling 20 stories at a festival, I've got those 20 stories on an index card, and I know the story so well that all I need to be remembering are the bare bones, especially number 1 and number 5. Okay. So feel free to fill in the front and the back of it. Some of you feel like you have to. No worries. You do you. But this is the easiest way to remember a story. I do, when it comes to learning stories, I'll type out the entire story and I'll read it 5,000 times. I just need to learn a story really well. So I'm not telling you not to do that if that's something you have to do. But once you've learned your story, how are you going to keep it in that long-term memory? Put it into a bare bones. Okay? All right. So stop there. All right. So that was it. That's exactly the shortest tips I can give for the evening. Again, I welcome everybody. We'll get started. Our very first teller is a member of our SASA board. His name is Mark Bobino, and he is going to join us possibly with his grandbaby joining him soon after. Hopefully we can hear the beautiful cries of this sweet, handsome young baby himself too. But without further ado, I'd like to hand the stage over to Mark. We're waiting to see if
Mark is muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Jane. This time of year, we're all in celebration. Everybody's celebrating graduations. And this past weekend, I went to Katy. My grandnephew graduated 18 years ago. He was sleeping in my cradle here. And so I'm just in a celebratory mood. It made me think of the year San Antonio celebrated its 150th anniversary. And there were celebrations going around throughout the city. And one of the kickoff celebrations was at St. Philip's College. And it was a one-woman show of the founder of St. Philip's. And I ran into my cousin there, my father's first cousin, Charles Anderson. And after the show, there was a reception. And Charles and I, we sat down and we were eating and looking at all of these photos of St. Philip's. And he pointed and said, "That's how I remember her on the steps, the founder." And I said, "You remember her?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, how is that?" He said, "I went to school here." Oh, he's from Beaumont and he lives here in San Antonio. I said, "You went to school here?" He said, "I'm gonna tell you the story." He said, "You know, when I graduated, I stopped in San Antonio to visit my Aunt Mai. And when I stopped, he said, I met this priest and this minister. They were trying to integrate St. Mary's. They thought I would be an excellent candidate because I graduated from a Catholic high school and I came from a good family. So they asked me if I would stay instead of going on to Xavier, because he was going to Xavier in Louisiana. He said, so I stayed. And they were working with St. Mary's. He said, well, in the meantime, I enrolled at St. Philip's. He said, when registration came to St. Mary's, he said, I went there and I stood in line and all those guys, they were kind of talking about me. You know, I was just a skinny kid there. And he said, when I got up to the window and I gave them my papers, he said, they told me to hold on a second. He said, then they came back and they gave me a letter. I was rejected. They weren't going to be integrating St. Mary's. He said, and one day I was reading in the Express News an article about St. Mary's. And in it, they said many years ago, there was a young man that tried to integrate St. Mary's University, but they didn't know who he was. He said, and I called the newspaper. I told them, hey, that fellow was me. He said, and I still had my rejection letter. And I showed them that paper. I said, wow, brother. We called him Brother Charles. I said, wow, that is a fascinating story. He said, so I don't know. He said, maybe one day something will happen. Well, just a few weeks ago, Charles Anderson, my cousin, was given an honorary doctorate degree from St. Mary's University, acknowledging the injustice that was given to him. And now he's an honorary doctorate. And I just wanted to share that story because this is a time of celebration. This is a time of healing, and I commend St. Mary's for moving forward, and congratulations to my cousin, Charles Anderson. Justice delayed, but justice nonetheless. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Dr. Anderson, is that his degree?
Yes, yes.
That is fantastic.
So 71 years later.
Oh, thank you so much. We're testing out. I'm not sure if John Hale is spotlighting. Yeah, he is. Good. Okay, perfect. Oh, that is amazing. You know, time is of the essence, but it's so wonderful that St. Mary's has started that and the healing process has begun. So thank you so much. That's fabulous. All right, Mark, I didn't hear a baby, but maybe we'll hear a baby soon. Mark is a grandpa now, so with the most beautiful grandson you've ever seen, unless you have some grandsons yourself.
Uh,
All right, our next storyteller is Jane McDaniel, and we're glad she's here to tell a fabulous Ukrainian tale. I've heard her tell this, and I've asked her to tell it tonight. She will be taking off to Ireland pretty soon, so I'm glad we grabbed her, and I know you'll enjoy her story. So without further ado, here comes Jane McDaniel.
Thank you, Sue. I have told this story before, and I'm amazed that I get to tell it again. It's from the Ukraine. Ukraine has a lot of Cossack stories. That was a culture which was constantly on the move, didn't write down a lot, but they told a lot. It's a bit like the Irish, old ancient Irish Celtic culture. Anyway, there was an old man and a woman who lived together close to a wood. And they earned their money, or rather he earned their money, by going into the wood and cutting wood, into the forest and cutting wood and selling it. She stayed home and minded the house, and she was a great chatterbox. And they would have been extremely happy if she hadn't been such a gossip, because everything that happened in their house or anywhere else, she told it to the entire world. And he was often tired of that. So it was often that he went happily into the forest to collect wood. One day he was going along with his cart, walking beside and leading the horse, when he happened on some very, very soft ground, and his foot sank almost into the ground, and he stopped and wondered what it could be. So he dug, and there he found it. It was a silver vessel, and when he opened it, it was full of gold coins. Well, what to do? If he would take it home, his wife would tell everybody. She couldn't keep that to herself. So he covered it back up again with all the earth, and he walked around and around in circles trying to think of what he could do to stop her from telling everybody. And he got an idea. He went into town and he bought a live pike, a fish, a large fish, and he bought a hare, a fresh live hare. And he took both of them back into the woods again, and he climbed a tree and tied the pike up at the top of the tree on one of the branches. And then he climbed back down again and went to the stream that went through the forest. And he put one of his nets in there because he often fished on the side, and tied the hare up inside the net securely. And then he went home. And when he got home, his wife said, "So what happened? What did you see? Who did you see? What's going on? You see anybody new? What happened? Did you get loads of wood or what?" And he said, "Yeah, I got loads of wood, but you know what? It's my lucky day. I found a treasure." "A treasure? You found a treasure? Did you bring it home?" No, I couldn't. I couldn't think what to do with it." "You stupid man. Let's get on the car to go straight back and get that treasure." So they got up on the cart and they went back into the woods. And as they were going along, he said to her, "You know what? I've been hearing the strangest, stupidest things from people recently. They told me, well, people are talking, it's stupid. I can't really tell you." "Oh, come on, tell me," she said, "tell me." He said, "Well, one person told me that fishes now can fly and that you find them in the sky and in the trees." "Oh, that's stupid. That's so stupid. How could you believe anything like that?" "Well, I don't quite believe it," he said. And as they came closer to that tree where the fish was, he said, "Well, what would you believe it? Look what's up there." And she looked up and she said, "There really is a fish up there. Well, maybe what people are saying is true." And he said, "Wow, I've never seen anything like that." And he stood there looking at it with his arms akimbo, looking up. And she said, "Stupid man, climb up that tree and get that fish. That'll be a great dinner." So he climbed up the tree and he brought down that fish, wrapped it in some leaves and put it on the cart. She said, "So where's the treasure? Come on, show me." And he said, "It's along here a bit." And they went along a bit and they came to the little creek, and he said, "You know what? I also heard that there are animals, wild animals, who will now swim in the river and spend all their time in the water." She said, "You'll believe everything, won't you? Some people tell the stupidest things, and you're just the stupid person to be listening to it." And he said, well, look up ahead there. What is that? I do believe it's a four-legged creature in my net. And she looked and she said, wow, I think it must be true. She said, go and pick up that hare. That'll make a fine feast. So he went and disentangled the hare and tied its legs together and put it up on the cart. And then they went to where the gold was dug into the ground, dug it up and took it home. Well, she had the best time for 3-4 weeks after that. She invited everybody to dinner. She made big feasts. First, it started off with the hare, and it started off with the fish. And they got to be so huge that 10, 12, 14 people were coming to dinner every night. And she was telling everybody about how rich they were. And he grew impatient with her. And he said, woman, you have to stop this. We'll have no money if you go on like this. And she said, what? We found that treasure together. We will spend it together, and I am just as right as you are. He said, well, I'm going to stop you. You can't spend any more of that money. And he took the container with the gold coins and he put it away. He said, don't touch it. She looked at him and she was so angry, and she couldn't get at that money. And she said, I'll go to the governor and I'll tell him about it. You can't do that because we're supposed to tell the governor when we find something like that. I will go to the governor and I'll tell him all about you, that you are keeping that money all for yourself. So she went to the governor and she told him, my husband, he's found treasure in the woods and he's keeping it all for himself and he's not giving me any of it. What? Said the governor. I never heard about any treasure. And she said, yeah, he's just keeping it a secret and I'm mad as hell at him. So the governor called his elders together and he said, well, what should we do? And they said, well, we should go there and check and see if the story is true. So he sent his Secretary of State and 3 of the elders to the old people's house. And they went there and knocked on the door and said they were come to have a look at the treasure which the old man had found, and that it should be given up to the governor if they had any. And the man looked at them and he said, where did you hear that story? And they said, well, your wife came to the governor and told him about it. Ah, said the old man, you can't believe her. What can she tell? My goodness. But if it's the truth, I will pay the price. I know it's treason. I will pay with my life. And he called his wife and she came out. And he said, woman, did you tell the governor that we have money in the house, that we have found a treasure? I sure did, she said. Tell the Secretary of State how we went into the woods, and if we did find it, tell him the whole story. She said, well, we got on the cart and we went into the woods, and then we saw a pike up in a tree, and my husband climbed up in the tree to get the pike. Secretary of State, you saw a pike up in a tree. Yes, you know, pikes live in trees now and they fly. Said the Secretary of State. Is that the truth? That can't be the truth. It's the truth. I saw it with my own eyes. And I also saw the hare. There's a hare that flies, that swims now in the river. And my husband puts his nets in the river, and you know, you can catch all kinds of 4-footed creatures now that swim in the rivers. Said the Secretary of State. Woman, get back to your business. And he looked at the husband and he said, you don't have any treasure, do you? The husband said, I'm sorry that she told you that story. I'm sorry. Please excuse her. And the Secretary of State and the 3 elders took off and went back to the governor and told him that it was all a lie, the story about the treasure. And what did the old man do? He bought his wife a shop in town and he filled it full of goodies. And from then on, she ran that shop and she heard all the gossip of the town and got to talk to people every day. And she was happy. And so was the old man, because now he had a peaceful house. And that's my story. Oh, boy, those Ukrainians.
Yes, the peaceful house, so needed. So many similarities to us right here in America.
Yeah. The same everywhere.
Yep. Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you for
Thank you.
telling that again. I love it. All right. Next up is a young man all the way from Austin, Texas, who we love and adore. He's always been connected with the San Antonio Storytellers. He's helped us with our youth storytelling competitions. I don't know if you remember that, David. You actually got it over to St. Edwards. It was so amazing. Yes. And David, I believe, is the president of the Central Texas Storytelling Guild.
That's right. That's right.
And he tells virtually, and I mean virtually, all over the world. Just lately, he was in Marrakesh telling one of his tales, which I got to hear, which was fabulous.
Oh, that was Ragnarok at the Dewdrop Inn.
Yes, and of course now David was a professor. I guess once a professor, always a professor.
No. I was an administrative coordinator and special lecturer.
Oh, okay. Special lecturer at St. Edwards in Austin. So there we go. And David has a special tale he'd like to share with us tonight. So you've got the floor, David.
All right. Hey, everybody. Well, as Sue said, she heard me tell Ragnarok at the Dewdrop Inn. And I've been inspired by Donna Ingham, who has taken the Greek stories and set them in Texas, and they're beautiful. So I've been taking the Norse stories and setting them in Texas. And that's, if you really know Norse stories and Norse mythology, it really helps a whole lot. Tonight, I'm going to be telling Jim Smith Realty and the Orchard. And it's one of those Norse stories set in Texas. So here we go. Now, some of you probably know about flippers. When they flip a house, when they go and they find a house and they live in it most likely, and they fix it up, and about 2 or 3 years later, they sell it for a profit, then they might move on. Well, that's what Jim Smith did. Oh, he was a realtor, all right, but he got tired of living behind a desk and decided to go out and do flipping. Turns out that he flipped so many houses in the big towns that there was none left. So he kept moving out, and he got to a small town south of Kerrville. I think it's called Harper. I'm not quite certain. I think that's what it was called. And he and his dog. Oh, let me tell you about Dog. Dog, it was his name because Jim was a really practical man. He was one of these old Yaller dogs, these old Labradors. He's about 15 years old, and Jim was about 72, 73, but still spry and still going. And they went riding around, and they saw this beautiful old farmhouse, and they saw a sign in front, "For sale. Contact L. Key Realty." And he said, think I'll do that. So he went and he contacted L. Key Realty, and oh, yes, that house is for sale. There's some land, and let me tell you, there's an orchard that goes with it. Really? What type of an orchard? Oh, it's all fruit trees, but anyway, it's an orchard. So, and he went on the high pressure, and Jim Smith said, okay, I'll buy it, move in, fix it up, and then move on. And Mr. L. Key, the realtor, was very happy about that. So they moved in, Mr. Jim and Dog, and they were there, and they fixed up the house, and they were working. They were there about 3-4 months. And one morning, right after Mr. Jim was having his coffee, he decided, I think Dog and I are going to go look around and see what's going on, because we've been in the house too much. We need to get out and walk around the property. So they did. And he wanted to find that orchard, by the way. So they went walking around, and Dog was sniffing and snuffling and moving along and panting because, he's an old dog. And Mr. Jim was just moving around. And guess what? They topped a little hill, and they saw this beautiful old iron fence. And I mean old iron fence. It was all rusted, not a verdigris, and vines had grown up around it. And he said, I wonder if the orchard's on the other side, because all I see is brown. I wonder if they've had any rain lately. So they went looking, and he found the gate. And they weren't locked. There was no chain around it, but it was rusty. Oh, Lord, honey, it was rusty. So he pushed, and he pushed. And the gate opened. Come on, dog, let's go see what we can find. So as soon as they stepped into that orchard, Lord Jesus, Mary, and the barnyard animals, what do you think they saw? It was all green and beautiful and lots of trees, lots of fruit trees. And the sky was this gorgeous blue, and there were white fluffy clouds and a gentle breeze. And there was some real pretty wildflowers, and they were swaying in the breeze. And Jim looked, and he looked back and he looked again. He said, maybe my eyes are bothering me. Let me go see what's going on. Come on, dog. Let's see what's happening. So they went walking and walking, looking around, and it was just so pleasant and so nice. And there he looked to his right, and up on top of a small hill, he saw two people looking around and checking out the apples and the peaches. And I think there was even a pomegranate bush. I'm not certain. I just heard this from somebody else. And he went, hey, y'all, hey, how you doing? And the man looked around, and he turned to the woman. He says, what's that? And the woman turned to him, and she said, I think it's a human. We'll see. And there's a dog. Oh, much like a wolf. No, he's yeller. Wolves ain't yeller, are they? No, they're not. So Mr. Jim and dog walked on up, and he was just real happy to see somebody. And he looked at these two people, and they were just downright plumb gorgeous. She was beautiful. She had the most gorgeous and beautiful red gold hair with rivulets of curls running down all the way down to her waist. Her skin was fair and pure. Her eyes were as green as the hills. Took your breath away. And he looked at the man, and he had black hair, thick and pulled back in a ponytail. And his eyes were just piercing blue, bluer than the skies. And he had a smile that brightened up the horizon. So he walked up, said, how do? I want to introduce myself. My name's Jim Smith, and here's my friend Dog. He's been with me for a while, and we bought the house down here, going to work it. And according to Mr. L. Key, and as soon as he said that name, the little woman and the man looked at each other and sighed. And what did Mr. L. Key tell you? The lady asked. Well, he said that there was an orchard attached to the property, but I didn't see it on the plot, on the outline of the plot. And if it is, it's my orchard, and I need to check it. And the lady looked at him and said, your orchard? It's been here for a long time, and we've been here for a long time. So I would say it's really our orchard, but that's okay. That's okay. Don't worry. We can share it. Oh, okay, Mr. Jim said. But there's some beautiful fruit trees around here, just gorgeous fruit trees. What type of apples are those? Oh, those are special apples. That's a sheep's head, and that's a red delicious, and there's a wine sap. And he looked and he said, wait, whoa. What about that there tree over there? And they turned and they looked, and that tree was full of the most beautiful golden apples that you have ever seen in your very life. And they were big too. I'd say they're about like this. And he said, those are gorgeous. I'd never seen no apples like that. Oh, by the way, Mr. Jim, let me introduce ourselves before we continue talking. The lady said, my name is Miss Ida Dunn, Miss Ida Dunn Johansson. And this is my husband, Mr. Braggy Johansson. Braggy's a family name. And oh, how do, good to meet you. Finally, here's my name's Jim Smith. I mean, the whole thing and all this good stuff. So they went walking around and they talked about the trees and the beautiful flowers and the green hills. And dog was just looking around and Mr. Braggy was scratching his ears. And Miss Ida Dunn, she said, that's a real pretty dog you got there. Oh, thank you. He's my friend. He's been with me for a long time. And well, it went on and they had a long conversation. And Miss Ida Dunn said, Mr. Jim, I see you bent over and your hands look like you really work a lot. Oh, honey, I have the arthritis in my hands. My spine is bent over from all the sawing and the nailing. And dog here, well, he's 15 and he's going blind. But I can't. He's my buddy. He's my buddy. And she said, okay. Oh, we're going to have to go pretty soon. So I'm going to ask you if you would, when you leave, you close the gate. But before you go, and she turned to Mr. Braggy and said, what do you think? And he looked at her and said, yeah, let's do it. So she reached up and plucked one of the golden apples, the beautiful golden apples. She says, here, honey, this is for you. And he looked at that apple and it was shiny like the sun. And it smelled like apple blossoms all over the place, a whole orchard full. She said, go ahead, taste it. Go ahead. I tell you, it's really good. So he and his eyes got big and the juices were dripping down his beard all over his hands. And right before he could wipe his hand on his breeches, Mr. Dog came over and started licking the juices. Well, that's one way to clean them off. And he finished eating the apple and the hands was all washed off with the dog. And he got down to the seeds and went, oh, that was the bestest apple I'd ever had. Here, I want to give you the seeds back because you might want to plant them. And Miss Ida Dunn said, well, honey, thank you. Thank you so much. Do come back now. We're going to have to leave, so I'm going to have to shoo you off. Oh, okay. Y'all have a good day. So he and Dog made their way back down the hill. They made their way back to that gate, the one that was rusted. But it was no longer rusted. It was beautiful, like it was brand new. And Mr. Jim reached out his hand and he noticed that his hands were no longer curled and wrinkled and withered, and his skin was tight on his hands. He was standing up straight. And they went through the gate and closed it, and he went running towards where he could find a pail, a bucket of water. And he looked in and there was no wrinkles. His eyes were bright. His beard was dark brown. His hair was dark brown. And he was like, what happened? And then here comes Dog, looking like he was 5 years old, young and licking on him and jumping up and barking and running around. And Mr. Jim looked at that orchard gate. And he looked at Dog. And he looked in the bucket again just to make certain he saw what he saw. And he said, Dog, they're going to make some good neighbors. I think we'll stay. Let's go in the house and have some supper.
Bravo. Don't you want us to all unmute so we can all say bravo, bravo? It's so hard because we love that story. You did Texas proud. That was awesome.
Well, thank you. Considering I'm not from Texas originally.
Well, I think you did excellent. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And please, y'all, use the chat. Let them know how wonderful it was. I do want you all to know that I did just resend some messages that were sent early on. The Dobie Dichos is going to be coming November the 4th, and Glennis wants to make sure that you know that. Put that on your calendar. It's not to be missed. Oakville is not very far. It's from San Antonio. You just kind of heading south, and you'll hit Oakville right off of 281. It's pretty easy to find, and you'll find the old jailhouse. The setting's fabulous. Big fireplace, wonderful chili. Oh my gosh. It's
okay.
It's
So we're going to hire you for PR.
Okay. Yeah. So
Thank
Glennis
you.
is right there. Glennis, did you want to say anything?
We're not doing Day of Stories this year. We're doing some different things, but we will. Dobie Dichos will be there. And Mary Margaret says, if you want food, buy early, because there's a certain amount. It's chili. It's all the Texas foods: chili, pan de campo, pecan pie, and beer.
Yeah. And flatbread, right? Some kind of
Right,
bread.
that's pan de campo. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Right.
Awesome.
Little jalapenos and onions and beer and some Texas wines too. So
Ooh, nice. All right. Thank you so much. And Chester Weems also wants y'all to know that Storytellers up there in Oklahoma, they're throwing together a wonderful, fantastic festival. And Chester, I just wanted to ask you really quick, if you cannot make it, but you want to see it, are you recording the sessions so that folks can then zoom in later?
Yes, we are. I don't know if we know what we're doing, but we are recording it, and it's all by Zoom. I will tell you, our featured tellers are Laura Packer on Saturday night, and Friday night is Rosie Cutter. And we imported a Texan to help us on Saturday night. David Goodrow is going to come up and give us a little music, and so we're excited about that.
Perfect. I won't be there, but I will be. I am paying to go, so I do want to see it. I'll just see it afterwards.
Okay. I think maybe some of your kids are going to be there, though.
Can't wait. Cannot wait. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Chester. And everyone put that on the calendars. It's coming up this weekend. All right. Without further ado, I would like our next teller, John Hale, to walk on the stage. John is also our host and tonight, and he's sharing a story that he told us a little bit about last month, so I cannot wait to hear his tale. How about a hand for John Hale?
Let's go to Mexico. That's what my college professor of Spanish told to the group. And we were excited. I was interested. I was thinking about the adventure. But then I started thinking about the risks. I'd heard about the crimes, the theft, and the violence against tourists in Mexico. So I pulled Professor Ruiz aside and I told him about my concerns. And he said something wonderful. He said, John, go to Mexico. You will fall in love with the country, and you'll find that the people in Mexico are marvelous. Gente maravillosa. And I did. There was about 24 of us that went to Cuernavaca, Mexico for the summer. And it was the Lopez family that received me with open arms. They had a room set aside just for me, and it was just wonderful. Freddie, the one young man who is also college age and my age, took me around. He showed me the city. He even brought me with him to work so I could kind of drive along with him and see what he did. He was a delivery driver between the different points at the factory. I went out with his friends and I got to meet some of the local Mexicans, and I found out many of them were marvelous people. But I noticed back in the corner, when some of the Mexican people would get drunk, they got pretty mean. And then on the other corner was American tourists at the bar wearing their t-shirts and shorts and flip-flop and being really noisy. And it was inevitable. Before too long, that group of drunk Mexicans and drunk American tourists seemed to always get into a little scuffle and had to be forcefully removed from the bar. And I realized that when I traveled around Cuernavaca, I got much more respect when I dressed nicely in a button-up shirt, nice trousers, and nice dress shoes. And I took many walks and got to meet people in the different store and just kind of check it out, go to the bookstore, which is where I met my Mexican girlfriend for that summer. Now, if you were standing at the bus stop and looking back, you would have seen the language school where I went to school for half a day and improved my Spanish. I spoke it pretty good, but now is really improving. But at the same time, going over subjunctive verb conjugation drills gets a little bit boring. So I was watching the clock and waiting until it hit 2 o'clock. And if you were standing at that bus stop, you would have seen me race out that back door right towards the bus stop. And in Mexico, a bus, a shuttle, a van will come by about every 2 minutes. And so I was excited to get downtown so I could see my girlfriend, Gloria. And here comes the bus, the city bus. It was packed full of people. There was people hanging out the windows because only half their body would fit inside the bus. I decided I was going to get on this bus and get downtown. And so I stepped up on that last little step right there by the back door. I grabbed the rail on the left and grabbed the rail on the right, and I kind of tried to squeeze in, but there was a big man right there in the doorway, and he looked mean. He had a scowl on his face. Kind of reminded me of an old boss. So I just grabbed hold of those rails on the side of the door and I leaned out. I didn't have to be in the bus. I paid my 25 centavos, the 25 cents, and off we were downtown. And you know what? Hanging out like that, I wasn't scared of this big man now that I was a little bit farther back, even though he gave me some ugly looks. I was feeling the wind blowing in my hair. Well, back then I actually had long hair. And I got to feel the wind blowing by. It felt so good. And I was just loving it. And that guy in the door looked at me like, oh, you stupid American tourist. All of a sudden, two big hands reached out. They grabbed me by the collar, pulled me into the bus, right into his chest. I was mad. I was frustrated. I was scared. And then whoosh, a telephone pole went inches away from the side of that bus. And I realized as I looked up at that big, scary man, that he saved me from being smashed by a pole. He was my hero of the day. And as I looked up at him and I said, gracias, he got the biggest smile on his face. And I remembered the words of Senor Ruiz, my professor, who said, you will fall in love with Mexico and you'll find that the Mexican people are a marvelous people. And I did.
Lovely story. Yes, our neighbors. Aw. Great story, John. Thank you so much. And your Spanish is very good.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Well, I use it every day with construction workers.
Well, that's the key. Use it every day. I took 3 years.
We went to that school in Cuernavaca from Coastal Bend College, and it was wonderful. I even gave a toast in Spanish. Could I do that now? No, but they are very good at teaching you, and it's a beautiful place. I mean, I've never seen Bougainvilleas like that in my life.
And they're
Wow.
nice as long as you're not the stupid American tourist.
I have
Well,
some
John-
stupid stories too, John, from there.
John,
Well,
I
we-
have, I've studied all over Mexico and spent many, many, many summers. And I just love that story so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. You heard it from the best right there. Okay, well, we're going to move on. I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and ask. I have not seen Jane Terrell on here. Jane, if you're here and maybe under another name, let us know. Speak up now, forever hold your peace. Okay. All right, we're going to move on then. We have our wonderful friend, storyteller extraordinaire, who sadly left San Antonio because she had to. Her handsome husband is in the Army, and so they moved to, I believe, Georgia. But she still spends time when she can back in Texas storytelling. But she's with us tonight, and she wants to try out part of a story, I understand. And Carolina Quiroga-Stultz, thank you so much for being here. You're welcome anytime, and we'd love to hear your tale.
Thank you, Sue. I'm super, super happy to be here today. Funny thing, I was in Texas about a month ago telling stories. And so what I was thinking about sharing with you today is a story in progress. The story is a little long, so I'm gonna share only half of it. And this is a little scary for me because you all know me. You know that I tell stories that I find in books that I adapt, but I've never done stories that I wrote myself, except for the one I told it at Texas, the Storytelling Festival. But this one is from my childhood, so I hope you enjoy it. So I'm sure you watched at some point the movie Jaws, right? The movies where these sharks that attack beachgoers and all that, right? Okay, so here's the thing. During the 70s, the movie Jaws and its sequels had a great success, and this success had caused a major impact in the film industry and on me. By the 80s, when I was a child, and there was no internet and no streaming services, those movies were played almost everywhere. I mean, they were played every Halloween. They were played on drive-in movie theaters, your friends' houses, doctor's office, long bus drives, airplanes, literally everywhere. So here's the thing. Most kids don't develop huge scars after watching a movie, but I am one of the impressionable ones. So for instance, after watching Edward Scissorhands, right? I did not let my hair be cut for over 5 years, afraid that the wrong trim would cost me a hand. And yes, of course, my hair grew out so long that my mama dressed me up like Chewbacca from Star Wars for Halloween, and I won the Halloween contest. I was so impressionable that after watching Chucky, the evil doll, I got rid of all my human-like dolls, afraid that a disgruntled doll might get some vicious and murderous ideas. Now, movies were not the only thing that would cause lasting impression on me. After watching in a cartoon a fish being spat out the shower head and then later swimming around the bathtub and washed away down the drain, I began wondering, if a fish can come out of the shower head, what else can end up in my shower? So after having to watch 2 of the movie Jaws in a 8 very long hour bus trip from Cali, my city, to Bogota, the capital of Colombia, my imagination began to spiral out of control, and I developed a huge fear of water. Now, I know that most kids' rite of passage from toddler to childhood consists of being able to poop in your own portable toilet without expecting a diaper or your mama to handle your stinky business. Well, in that regard, I didn't have much problem. My mama said that I was ready to get rid of her maternal intervention. Mommy, some privacy, please. But when it came to taking my own shower, ese fue otro cuento. That was another story. I became convinced that the next thing to be spat out of the shower head was going to be what do you think? Yeah, a shark. Because, I mean, keep in mind that during the 80s, the only thing that kids had for what grown-ups call news was films and cartoons. So they had to be so true to that, right? Then I was to avoid any deep bodies of water and showers. So for a while, I refused to shower alone. Mommy, por favor, shower with me. When my mama said no, then I decided that I was going to follow nature's ways. I was gonna lick myself from head to toe. I mean, if animals can achieve great levels of cleanliness by doing that, who am I to judge nature's wise ways, right? But then it turns out that I didn't know that you actually need some special things in your tongue to do that, which we humans don't have because we are so incomplete. Bummer. And also my survival instincts and my resourcefulness were met with a resounding no from my parents. But thankfully, they were not tyrants. They asked me to meet them in the middle, but still, my mama said, nada de lamerse, no licking. Grown-ups literally lack understanding for vital things. But anyway, from there, I decided that I was going to take my sweet time in the shower. From the time I was 6 years old until I was 12, I took 60 minutes, a whole hour in the shower. Now, bear in mind that I did not have a bathtub because that's not a thing in Colombia. All I had was a small tile shower with a non-adjustable shower head and also no heater because, again, that's not a thing in Colombia. Well, in some places, but not where I'm from. I am from Cali, a very hot city all year around. So most people actually shower with cool water, which is the perfect temperature for the survival of most fish. I'm telling you, everything was against me. So I decided to apply the following strategy. I was going to turn the shower valve 15 degrees, 15, instead of 90 or 180, like most non-believers do. And with a 15-degree valve turn, what you get is a thin thread of water enough to wash a pinky. And since there are so many other body parts, well, the task of cleaning myself became a lengthy ordeal. Also, keep in mind that I spent the first 15 minutes just setting up the stage in case, in the potential, unlikely, but yet potential event of a shark eluding the hoops and loops that takes to travel from the ocean to my shower. Now, let me clarify. The procedure to avoid a shark attack in my shower consisted of placing a tarp on the floor to entrap the shower. Now, although sharks have sand, it feels like sandpaper, their skin, different from slimy, like some people may think it is. Well, the thing is that sharks are very strong and it could easily outmaneuver me despite my athletic looks. Next, my dad's toolbox. After my dad's nostalgia over building his first house, well, now that he was working at an office job, he didn't have much use for that toolbox. So I figured, as the sole heir of all my mother's and father's possessions, because I'm an only child, I had rights. Yeah, I could call dibs on that toolbox. So what I did is I made that toolbox find its way to my bathroom right under the toilet. And to avoid my mother's constant urge for cleaning and organizing what to her seemed to be misplaced, a thing that my husband said I inherited. Well, what I did was to paint the toolbox pink and place lots of stickers on it. My mama thought that it was like a vanity box, one of those boxes that girls get as a gift to play makeup, where I let her believe it, the things that grown-ups want to believe. As for my dad, it took him about a decade to realize what had happened to his toolbox. Now, you may wonder, what did I have in that toolbox? Nothing sharp, nothing heavy, not a single household tool, but I did consider keeping the hammer, although then I realized that I have the tendency to miss, like that one time when I was going to kick the softball and instead I ended up doing 3 somersaults in the air. Well, I was kicked out of the softball team, but I received an invitation to join the acrobatics group, which I declined because I'm afraid of depths and heights. But again, what did I have in that toolbox? Anything you may need when you want to catch a sneaky shark in your shower. Gloves for better grasp. I got my mama to get me the ones that fishermen use along with the apron. I said that it was for a school project, the things you can get away when you're an only child. A water bottle spray to keep the shark cool. That was just me being nice to him, okay? A Kodak rectangular camera with a brand new tape to capture the moment and prove the world that I was right. Magnifying glass for detailed evaluation of my recent discovery. A hard hat from my dad's building days. A tape recorder to document this encounter with a creature whose ancestors have been around for over 455 million years. I mean, you totally gotta get an interview from that guy, right? A sketchbook and crayons to make him or her a portrait, just in case the other 2 devices, the camera and the tape recorder, would fail, because these were the times where devices would malfunction, get stuck, or refuse to cooperate. Oh, the portable radio that my dad used to use when he was listening to classical music. Yeah, but because he thought like classical music would make him smarter, the things that people would believe in the 80s. But according to my mother, it would only put him to sleep. So I figured that if I keep the dial in classical music station, I could welcome the ocean traveler with some soothing and calming tones. Because let's be honest, that journey had to be a very eventful one. I mean, no one can squeeze itself through pipes without being severely bruised, right? Not even if you, like a shark, have no bones. So again, it was just me trying to be nice. Goggles for better view in case of flood, and an encyclopedia on sharks and a book on mythological sea creatures that my mama got me, thinking that I was interested in following the steps of Jacques Cousteau, the French ocean explorer and environmentalist. That, or I was considering a life of piracy, because after I got over my Halloween phase of dressing like a witch, I was now asking for pirate, mermaid, and fish costumes. And so that's all I'm sharing today.
Oh my gosh. We related to all of that. Thank you so much. So funny. I was trying to copy down, I'll send it right now. I was trying to copy down everything you put in that toolbox, which I think were all essential and perfect for, oh my goodness. Look at that.
Yeah, I doodled the whole story so I could remember it.
Ah, and that's perfect. That is Carolina's bare bones right there. I love it. Oh my gosh, Carolina, we cannot wait to hear the second part. You've got to come back or tell it all together.
Show it again, Carolina, your doodle.
Can you see it? Like,
Now I can. Oh, wow. That's great. That's great.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you so much, sweet Carolina. It's always so wonderful to have you back.
same.
Okay, let's see who I can squeeze in here. I believe Nathan said he had a tale also. So Nathan, why don't you come on board? John doesn't know about these other tellers, so he's going to take a minute to find Nathan, and then we will spotlight him. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm here. Okay. Now the story I'd like to tell you tonight is a creation tale from the Tlingit Indians of Alaska. It's called The Tale of the Blackfish. Now, long, long ago, on the coastal shores of Alaska, there lived a great and talented artist and warrior named Natsaklani. Now, everyone in the village knew that he was destined to be chief because of his great skills, intelligence, and pleasant demeanor. However, his two brothers were jealous of him, and one day they decided to get rid of Natsaklani once and for all. And so the next day, the two brothers took Natsaklani out fishing in their boat, and they went out farther than they had ever gone before. And then they threw Natsaklani into the ocean and left him there to drown. But luckily for him, Sea Otter came in and pulled Natsaklani to a big island. There, Sea Otter showed him the best hunting and fishing grounds on the island. And then, to show his appreciation, Sea Otter gave Natsaklani some seeds and instructed them to sow them. And so Natsaklani did so, and he grew a great big forest that became the northwestern forest. And one with these trees, Natsaklani carved and made tools and a boat. And he tried all the trees, but he settled on yellow cedar for one final totem. And there he carved a creature that no one had ever seen before. He placed the creature on the shore and told it to hunt as it pleased and rule the ocean. And so the next morning, when Natsaklani came down to the river, the carving was gone. And there, swimming in the water, was the creature called Blackfish. And with this creature, Natsaklani was able, and with this power, and the Blackfish helped Natsaklani find his way back home to his native village. And there he vowed vengeance on his brothers, and so he sent Blackfish out to destroy his brother's boat and kill them. And so the great Blackfish did so. And because of his bravery and courage, Natsaklani became the new chief of the village. And as for the great Blackfish, Natsaklani told it to never harm people again after the deaths of his brothers, and to help all people who are drowning at sea to bring them to shore safely. And we call that animal today the killer whale. And that's my story.
That's amazing. The killer whale. I love that. Fantastic. Great job, Nathan.
Thank you. I figured it was summer, and people usually go swimming or go to SeaWorld in the summer at this time of year.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of us just love to study whales too. So I've not heard that particular tale. So thank you so much. It's fabulous.
You're welcome.
All right. So that was Nathan, and we're going to close up, I believe, with Jaime. We'll look for Jaime Blount, and it's so nice to have volunteers. We're extending our program just a little bit later than 8 o'clock. So if you all don't mind, stick around because we would love to have Jaime join us. I know John's looking for him. Let's see. There he is. All right, you've got the stage, Jaime.
Thank you. What goes around comes around. A long time ago, about 30 years ago, I worked in Europe as a teacher. I taught English as a second language in Hungary. And one thing that I noticed a lot was that Russia had a very strong influence on Eastern Europe. Many people there hated the Russians. They didn't trust them. They didn't like them. They didn't respect them. But they loved their champagne. They loved their caviar. They loved their culture. And many of them even went to study in Russia, to study the language, to study the culture, to experience a big country. Well, I was fascinated by it, and I had to go to Russia. So I spoke to my boss, who had studied in Russia for several years, spoke fluent Russian. I said, I want to go to Russia. I want to go to St. Petersburg, and I'd like you to help me. He said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I have friends there. You'll have a good time. So he did some networking with some friends in Russia. He said, well, I found a place for you to stay in Russia. You'll be staying at the friends of a friend of mine. The man speaks English. The rest of the family doesn't, but the man does speak English. But there's a problem. There's a problem. You see, my friend's father, an elderly man, has prostate cancer. He's dying, and he needs medicine, and he can't get the medicine he needs in Russia. I tried to find it here. I couldn't find it. So I contacted a friend in Germany who said, I found the medicine for you. I'll mail it to you, and your friend Jaime can take it with him to Russia when he goes to St. Petersburg. I wasn't too happy about that. Smuggling drugs into Russia? Was I going to be clapped into a Russian prison? Well, my friend assured me that it wasn't a problem. My boss, he was, by the way. So before I went to St. Petersburg, I took the drugs and I wrapped them in paper and I stuck them way back in the back of my rucksack so I wouldn't be detected. Got to the airport in St. Petersburg, went through passport control, customs, etc. Thank God they didn't make me open my bag and show those drugs. I didn't know what I was going to do. I guess I was going to say, well, I take these drugs. Doctors with their prescription drugs. I take these drugs every day, and I brought along enough to get me through my journey here. At any rate, I left the reception area and went out into the main hall of the airport in St. Petersburg, and there was a woman waiting for me, and she wanted to have the drugs. I said, well, let's wait. Let's go outside. I'll give them to you out there. So I took the drugs outside, opened up my rucksack, gave them to her. And she literally ran from that open field next to the airport to get onto the metro to give them to her father, who was dealing with prostate cancer. Well, the next day was very different. I had a wonderful host and hostess. I got tickets to go to the ballet in St. Petersburg. They provided me with free tickets, by the way, which I was very surprised by. I walked around downtown St. Petersburg, a wonderful, wonderful city, by the way. You must see it sometime. I just did the town, and at night, my host invited me to go for a walk with him to a park that commemorated the fallen soldiers of Russia who served in Afghanistan Little did I know that I'd be there eventually as a teacher working for the military. But anyway, we had a very good time. I met the sons of this couple, lovely, lovely couple, very nice sons. The oldest son, Nikita, was an officer in the Navy, the Russian Navy, and was very nostalgic about the time he went to the USA on a trip as a naval officer on a Russian naval ship, and went to Boston Harbor where they were wined and dined. He said he worked on a destroyer for sinking American submarines. And I said, yeah, well, we have quite a few submarines designed to, or we have quite a few destroyers designed to sink Russian submarines. So I think we're kind of equal on that score. I also went to visit the gentleman who was dying of prostate cancer, his daughter and his wife. And they were very, very appreciative of what I had done for them, bringing them the medicine to help him get through his journey. They cooked a delicious dinner, and we just talked and had a good time. The woman, the friend of my boss, spoke fluent English, so of course I spoke through her to speak to her mother and father. And I just had a perfectly wonderful time. And then after I finished my journey in St. Petersburg, I took a train over to Latvia, and then went from Latvia, no, to Lithuania, I'm sorry. Then went from Lithuania to Latvia, from Latvia to Estonia, from Estonia to Finland, and well, I don't want to bore you with all the details of where I went that time. But there's another part of the story. Like Paul Harvey used to say, and now for the rest of the story. Let me say instead of that, what goes around comes around. A couple of weeks ago, here in Hendersonville, North Carolina, I went for prostate surgery. I'm 73, I'll be 74 in a few weeks. And guys with prostate problems at my age, we come a dime a dozen. There are tons of us out there. So I went for the surgery, went back to my doctor the next day. He said, yeah, you're looking good, you're looking good. Come back and see me next week. I want to see you again. I did. He checked me out, said, yeah, you're looking good, you're looking good. But I want to tell you something. You know, I did a pretty thorough examination on you, and I discovered some cancer in your bladder. I said, really? He said, yeah, now it's nothing to get worried about. It's malignant cancer, but it's very, 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 very tiny. And it's nothing to worry about. I'm gonna monitor it. I'm not gonna operate. And I think you ought to just know this because it's part of who you are right now. What scared me half to death when he told me that, but he assured me that it's malignant, but it's very, very, very non-aggressive. And he said, we're gonna watch it. And I said, well, my father had prostate cancer for many, many years before he died. He died at 95, and he didn't die of prostate cancer. And his doctor just watched it for about 10, 12 years. So anyway, here I am. I'll be about 74 in about a month. The man I took drugs to in Russia was probably about the same age. He died, by the way. The medicine that I brought wasn't enough to keep him. Plus, he was pretty far gone anyway. What goes around comes around. There was that man in Russia, about my age now, who had cancer. And here I am, a young man of almost 74. I had prostate surgery a couple of weeks ago. My doctor found cancer in my bladder. Where's that going to go? I don't know. My doctor doesn't know. He said, we're going to monitor it and keep an eye on it. What goes around comes around. I think I'm living proof of that. End of story.
Thank you, Jamie, so much for sharing. You know, I had no idea. We're praying for you. It sounds like you've got a great doctor.
Yeah, I'm living my life, and I'm taking my doctor's advice to live my life. And he said we're going to watch it. And anyway, I think I'm in a good place right now.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing that story. and it involves all of us. So we'll be watching you. We'll be praying for you, and let us know.
Okay.
Keep those stories coming. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much, each and every one of you, for being here, for being great tellers, and for being wonderful listeners. We can't have one without the other. And we will be coming on back the very first Wednesday of next month. I hope to see all of you, and bring your friends, bring your family. So thank you all so much. I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope everyone has a wonderful June. We'll see you in July. Bye, everybody.
Bye, bye.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
great